Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to OpenLine. This is our special segment called Ask a Lawyer, where you, the viewer, get to call in and ask a lawyer any legal question you have. It can be about criminal matters, it can be about estates, domestic matters, anything. This is Kevin Kennedy. He's our guest tonight. The number's at the bottom of your screen, 737-plus, 737-7587. So we got a few phone calls, Kevin. Let's get back to them.
Let's jump on them.
All right, number 3 is Gene, I believe. Are you there, Gene?
Hi.
Hello, Gene. Go ahead.
Good evening.
I've been waiting to be able to get on this
I know. Well, we're glad you got here.
through. Well, hello, Mr. Kennedy.
My pleasure.
Listen, I got a divorce in early 2000, and my case went to the Tennessee Supreme Court because he appealed it.
Okay.
And because he didn't want to pay, but they said that he had to pay.
Yes.
And he hadn't been paying me. And I just found the paperwork this week to have him brought back in court.
Yes.
Now, he owns land in the western part of Tennessee, and I need my money. That's
Right.
the reason why they ordered that money to me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And he is, I'll say, over $50,000 behind.
Wow.
Have you ever had a case like this before, and what
Sure.
will they do?
First off, there's 2 or 3 things that your lawyers can do. They can file a petition for contempt and say this guy is under a court order to pay this money and he hasn't done it. They also have what's known as a show cause order, where you can show cause and send that guy a notice, bring him in front of the judge, and what that really means is you need to show cause why we should not hold you in contempt, why we shouldn't put you in jail, and you can have a civil contempt and that. One of the other petitions, if he had the asset and it were clear, I think that you can petition the court and say, Judge, he won't pay this. We ask that you divest his interest in this real estate to pay this judgment. And so there's a host of things that you can do and file liens on the property to jam it where he couldn't sell it, and then ultimately foreclose on that property, put it up for public auction through a court sale, proceeds to be paid into the court, and then you'd say, I want those proceeds for me.
Well, and what about, my heart goes out to somebody like Gene who's been all the way through that much litigation.
Yes.
So is there any recourse for somebody who, is going through a situation where someone's not paying support, someone's not paying alimony, and they keep appealing, and these people don't have the money for it, but yet they're, the money's due to them.
Yes, yes.
Do they have any recourse?
Well, the name of the game is always, there should be a point somewhere that you can negotiate. Really skilled lawyers, we can fight all day. But if you show me a reasonable lawyer and a reasonable lawyer on the other, there's going to be some common ground there. Once in a while, you get one that's completely crazy, well, then you're going to have to play hardball. And yes, the court system is not free. Everybody has to pay. If Nick gets in trouble we have to advance our own cause. That's why we have Court of Appeals. If there was abuse of discretion at the trial court, we've got to go. And then if the Court of Appeals says, hey, I don't agree, then we can go to the Supreme Court. So there's always, when there's a will, there's a way. And so I always encourage others to keep trying. And we've got other agencies out there that could assist you. So, if you're in the right, I always just say keep pushing, never quit. Winston Churchill said never give up, never quit. It's true in the law business.
All right, let's see here on line 5. I believe we got Billy. Are you there, Billy?
Oh,
Hello, Billy. Go ahead.
how you gentlemen doing?
Great.
All right.
Mr. Kennedy, listen, I got a situation that I ran into, and I don't know what to do about it. I went to the emergency room one night, and they called themselves putting an IV in my arm, and instead of shooting it in my vein, they shot it in my tissue.
Yes, I understand.
And it infected my arm. I ended up having to get it debrided, skin draft.
Yes.
And I mean, it really had me in a lot of pain.
Yes.
Well, I've not run into any, but I looked at all the attorneys that advertise on TV.
Yes.
And tried to get somebody to help me with this. And this don't seem like, if you don't have a case like a tractor-trailer truck running into you or airplane dropping out the sky on you, you don't get no help.
Well, and thank you for calling, because everyone's confronted with this. There's been a deviation from the standard of care in that medical community. Well, guess what? You know who some of the greatest lobbyists at the legislature comes out of the medical field, because they're lobbying and they're getting laws that benefit the medical association. And so, you know, you hear everybody say, well, it's tort reform. We don't want people to sue. Well, guess what? The little man gets hammered in tort reform. So, you know, the only person that you even got a fighting chance to get justice is the lawyer. But when they write the laws in such a way that the lawyer cannot make a living, then he says, hey, we can't take on this because there's no money. They put a cap with the legislature. Well, you know who got hurt the worst? The average guy. So again, I want you to understand, when the insurance companies are paying their lobbyists to say, we don't want this under the auspices that we're going to say no tort reform, guess what? It'll come to your home somewhere. The lawyer is the man that keeps the courthouse doors open, and it'll make people pay what's fair, because they know that a lawyer can bring them in there, have a lawsuit, and they're more worried. So it makes it reasonable where we can all settle.
That's right. And Billy, you know, we got an election coming up for some of the members of our General Assembly in 2016. So I would encourage you to get informed, find out where they stand on issues like that.
Yes.
And if they don't stand with the little man, then you know, you've got the right to exercise that power to vote and change that.
Absolutely. Well said, Nick.
Let's see here on line 6. We've got Brian. Are you there, Brian?
Yes, I am.
Good evening to you. What's your question for Kevin?
Okay, here's what I have. Girlfriend and myself in 2013, well, we were together, and we had a child in 2014, August of 2014. Well, I've been, you know, helping raise and provide for him and everything, and so we kind of got separated. Well, we went our own ways, but I was still seeing him and still providing for him and things of this nature. You know,
Right.
being a father like you're supposed to be, and not a deadbeat dad. So it was like she went months without letting me see him, and so I started questioning, you know, well, is he mine? Well, she was saying, well, there's no doubt in my mind, no doubt in her mind at all that he's mine and stuff.
Right.
So after she had not allowed me to see him, I hadn't heard from her, and I kept, you know, getting a messenger and calling her, and she wouldn't reply or anything. Like, when am I going to get to see my son? Oh, how is it? When are you going to bring him over to see me? Whatever. I never got a reply for like a month and a half. So then I went down to juvenile court and filed a petition.
There you go.
For visitation and custody.
Yep.
Well, after she was served, she called me.
I knew she would.
And I recorded our conversation, and then she started like bringing him around.
Yep.
And has been since then. She got served like 2 weeks ago, and court date is coming up this month. So,
Well, I'm glad you did that. You know, for all the dads that are out there listening to your same situation, there's 10,000 guys in this, and they say, hey, I'd love to see my child, but she won't let me. They're going to have to go down and file a petition, and then you can ask for a parenting plan. Let's at least get all this gray area off the table. I get to see the child every other weekend, maybe 2 or 3, and a lot of the judges, what is reasonable? Reasonable would be every other weekend, some days through the week. The theory is that it's best for the child to have a relationship with the father. And I'll tell you all this, listen to this. If the judge catches a mother trying to keep the child from seeing the father, that's a grounds that we can turn around and say, okay, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We're going to take the child away from her and let her have the weekend visitation. We've seen that. So again, what is fair and reasonable? I can be vindictive and try to take the Christian approach and try to, you know, you're going to reap what you sow. And you can sow mercy and kindness and generosity, and you'll reap it. On the converse, if you want to sow all the others, believe me, you're going to reap it.
And, you know, I just add to that Brian, you know, the laws recently changed in 2011, and so, you know, good fathers out there, the ship on Weekend Daddy has sailed.
Come on now.
And you know, so if you're a good dad and you want to be a part of that child's life, or a good mother, but it's usually the fathers. Let's just be honest.
That's the real world. Tell it.
You know, you have a great chance of getting a lot of time with your son or daughter. So don't stop and
I
don't
love it. You
settle
know,
and
Nick,
keep pushing forward.
25 years ago,
That's
it was
right.
always the mother had total control. That law has shifted. I'll make this point. When men's ideas and values change, the law changes. And that's why we have cases overturned. And so if you think this is right, all men have a sense of justice in there. What is fair? And it'll make you stand up and say, this is not right. This is. So I want to salute all the dads out there that advance their cause for their children.
Absolutely.
You know, really, what's life all about? You're working day and night. We saw your little girl here earlier. And it's what makes men and women sacrifice themselves and makes a difference, what makes America great.
That's right. Great question. All right, here on line 7, James, are you still there?
Yes.
Thanks for holding, James. What's your question for Kevin?
My question is, there's a friend of mine who had a charge account at a major store,
Yes?
but she had a supplementary card put in my name,
Yes?
and there's some problems that occurred between the families, and I found out through the bank that they had sent a debt of $18,000 to the credit union.
Oh, boy.
And I called the company, and they said it shouldn't be in my name because it was not my debt.
Yes?
I had a supplementary card. The first time I found out about it was last year. It was $14,000, and I made another application at the bank for a loan about a couple of months ago, and it had gone up to $18,000.
Well, one of the things that you can always do is you have a right to write a letter, a response to that, to the credit bureaus. And you say, this is not my bill, this is a mistake, this was her bill, please remove that off my credit report. And likewise, if they don't correct it, then that's one that I would go hire a lawyer and let them take steps to try to correct that. Again, now, you better be sensitive when someone says, well, this credit card's in Nick's name, but if I actually go and use it, then I could be giving my consent that I'm responsible because I have ratified doing this by using that card. And so you make a lot of gray areas, and that's where good lawyering comes in, and it could make a big difference, especially on an $18,000 problem. It'd be worth it to get your lawyer to get you away and get a clean bill of health on that.
I agree. All right, line 1 is Mel. Are you there, Mel?
Yes. I have a judgment lien against residential property that I've had since 2001.
Okay.
And in the 14 years that I've had that lien, they paid $5,680, and the balance now is about $22,000. My question is, would they be able to bankrupt to where they would not have to make any payments against this lien?
Okay, there's a lot of gray areas in the bankruptcy code. They filed a Chapter 13, filed a Chapter 11, filed a Chapter 7. Normally, you would be secured. However, when you get into bankruptcy, a lot of the lawyers, they start combing your documents. They're going to say, hey, your documents didn't meet the criteria for the state of Tennessee. We're not going to honor that lien. So 10 million things can happen. And so is it possible that they could get out of it? I'd always say there's always a possibility, because we even see cases. There was a $14 million case in court the other day. Well, and this was with a bunch of banks. Well, they did not get their cases perfected. And so somebody's looking, or did you hear me say it again? Wow. So again, I would try to get a lawyer. If I was concerned about that, I'd get an experienced lawyer to talk to me and say, hey, let's take some forward steps and see if we can't get this resolved.
All right, on line 2, we've got George. Let's see. Good evening, George. Are you there? George, you there? Well, Charlie, let's see. Well, we'll come back to you. I'm sorry. It doesn't seem like there's anyone on there. Let's see. We'll go to 5. Is Linda. Are you there, Linda?
Yes.
Hi, Linda. Go right ahead.
I have a question about a life estate problem.
Okay.
My husband and his 3 sisters have now wound up equal co-owners in some property, 30-plus acres, and a home in Georgia.
Okay.
Their mother passed away in August. One of the sisters is living in the home and refuses to pay rent to the other siblings or to the estate, and keeps asking the other siblings to pay part of the property insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Is there any legal recourse we have to ask her to pay, any way that you get her to pay rent and to stop asking for equal
Right.
the other kids to pay, the other children to pay the property tax, etc.
Well, first thing I would say, you raised a life estate. First off, that life estate would have to be in writing. They would have had it granted a life estate in a deed or left it in a will. It sounds like that did not happen. So if there's 4 brothers and sisters and one is just staying there and they don't want to pay rent, the owners of that property, which is the 4, have a right to file an eviction notice, and they can evict that person. They also have a right of partition sale. Say, look, we're going to go to the court. We're going to file a petition. I want that property sold, and whether she's in there or not, the court has the power to move them out, and then we just put it at public auction. When it is sold, if it brings $100,000, there's 4. We pay the cost of the sale out, and then divide the money. It's a settled issue.
That's a good question. All right, folks, if you'll stay tuned, if you're on the lines, we'll come back and answer your phone calls. We're taking your questions tonight here on Ask a Lawyer on Open Line 737+, 737-7587. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.